Have you noticed that the YouTube ad system seems to be almost perfectly designed to show you ads for things that you actively hate? Like, I always hear about people getting PragerU stuff on content criticizing PragerU, and I guess the internet is aware that I despise AI, because I got spammed recently with a bunch of ads for this show called Exit Valley.
Gold everywhere, even the toilet seats.
Gold toilet seats, that's quite the throne, Donald.
Which looked god-awful, if I can be real with you. Like a budget version of the most budget animated comedy you could imagine, but seeing it also left me slightly confused. Cause whoever is putting this in front of my face clearly had enough money to get it there, and yet nothing about it screamed money or investment. So I decided to dig a little bit into it. Which, as we should all know by now, means that I fell down a deep and drastically dire rabbit hole that showcased what the future of entertainment is going to look like if certain people get their way with the world.
Some company called Particle 6.
She'll do anything I say. I'm already in love.
Yeah, I'm gonna be cold opening this. No thesis statement, no discussion of where we're aiming to end up. You know, screw it. This is YouTube, not an essay for university. So looking up Exit Valley on YouTube takes me to what I can only describe as a very strange YouTube channel. Firstly, for the amount of money being put into pushing this thing by whomever is behind all of this, it's got like 5,000 subscribers, which feels quite low. And also, it's only got shorts on it. Singular scenes built around a few characters and usually one joke if we're very lucky. According to the description that they give us, Exit Valley is some sort of satirical comedy set in an alternate version of San Francisco called Sim Francisco. And its primary focus is on the startup founders and tech billionaires, that they can't really give too much of a premise away for the show, because at its core, the premise is, from what I can tell, that you create the episodes by giving pitches to the AI, who then generates your pitch in the art style of Exit Valley, and that then gets claimed as part of an episode for the show.
Alright, kids.
So they can't really sell characters or plot lines or narrative arcs or any actual real episode stuff, because the entire thing is sort of dependent on the audience to create and give life to it. Which really does sound like we're leaving most of the creative process in the hands of people who don't have experience making creative things, and whose very act of turning to AI might suggest a fear of actually learning how to create for themselves. To give you an example of the kind of content you can expect to find on here, let's talk about the most watched shorts that they have, specifically Rune Delivery Service, Mark Zuckerberg on AI, and Elon vs. Elon. Oh yeah, of course, Elon Musk was going to show up on these. It's almost impossible to run a single AI thing without trying to appeal in some way to the sad, weird South African billionaire whose desire for attention and idolation makes him quite the rich target.
I am the reason OpenAI exists.
Though, that's a different video to be done at some point. And here what we see is kind of just a taste of the quality of AI generation that's coming out of this, and also the quality of the people generating content for it. I'm sure that the peoples behind this argument would be that if you think it's not that great, well, then you can sign up yourself and make your own episode to fix that. God, could you imagine if the Game of Thrones writers came out at the end and said, "Oh, you don't like the show? That's fine. Write your own show and get a robot to produce it for you using our assets." Is that the future of TV that we want? Really? Regardless, Rune Valley Service has a character that I don't recognize, just sort of looks like a generic tech white dude, basically making a to-the-camera proposal for a new delivery service that brings you fresh pants when you've shit yourself in public, because that's a service that isn't offered by Uber Eats or DoorDash.
Dash and Uber Eats will literally bring you anything else other than pants from your house.
The satire, I suppose, at play here is that delivery services have reached a point of being able to do many things, and so people are creating delivery services for almost everything that could exist. The jokes at play are the idea of shitting your pants, emphasised with a tiny bit of over-the-top swearing and slang, leading into them mocking you for being a liar if you claim that you've never shit your pants. This joke would be making more sense to me if I could pin down who this guy was.
Who will bring you fresh pants from home when you ruin your britches.
Is this a tech billionaire who's known for shitting his pants publicly? And so him making a stand around that, it's like toilet humour, which is near the bottom of the comedy pyramid, but it does at least sort of make some contextual sense. But there are no comments telling me that, and the description is giving me fucking nothing to work with, so I've got no clue who it is. As far as the animation goes, we've already mentioned that it is shit, but it's worth repeating that the art style is like if you took all those generic Netflix cartoons that have the laziest form of drawing and then dialed that up to 11 and had characters just move for no reason and make strange positions and whose faces and mouths are animated in a way that suggests $5 spent on a teenager with a laptop in a basement.
You upset DoorDash and Uber Eats will literally bring you anything else other than pants from your house.
It's not good, is what I am trying to tell you here. Seriously, look at this Mark Zuckerberg one. Look at his hands. Look at how he holds the fries. Look at the way his mouth and eyes move. It doesn't even look like a good caricature of Mark Zuckerberg. Like, I would not know that's who it is if they hadn't told me it blatantly. What's the joke of this one, though?
Hi, I'm Mark Zuckerberg, and my entire life has been a lie.
Well, this one is a meta joke about how you should go and use Showrunner, with Mark talking about how his life has been a lie, and everything he has done has been an AI simulation, and that everything that happens in Showrunner is done by someone on a computer dictating it. Okay, I guess. Is that funny? Oh, and look, there's a Mick Meta in the background, so they can avoid the copyright infringement, and he talks about going in and eating himself into a coma because nothing matters. That didn't help. Is the joke supposed to be that he called his stuff meta, and so it makes sense for him to be doing a sort of meta commentary on Showrunner and AI? Is he meant to be self-aware? It doesn't help that the cadence of it all is done in this monotone voice that never really bothers giving emotion or weight to certain words or parts of a sentence, so you've got no idea which part is supposed to be focused on. It's just kind of boring in its entirety. The Elon Musk one has, if at all possible, worse animation, and he's on a spaceship for Elon Musk reasons. It features Elon talking to another Elon from the future, who has a black eye from his head engineer's wife, after he told that engineer's child that they're a low-yield product.
Who the hell are you? And why do you look like me?
It's got some other stuff in there too, like Elon sucking himself off over how great his jokes are, how Elon is an agent of chaos and should enjoy it, a little jab about how bruised Elon looks like he does after talking to the Tesla short sellers. Is this pro-Elon? The joke is about him literally being up himself and insulting a child because he isn't able to interpret that doing such a thing is stupid, and also makes fun of his clear fraudulent usage of social media for stock selling. I mean, I guess this is a good proof that anyone here can make content. While I hesitate to call it that at all, because this is more just a giant pile of slop poured on the floor than anything crafted. Well, I mean, there's no reason that the people doing this have to be nice to the tech billionaires.
You're a terrible version of me, and you're about to be a terrible version of yourself. Embrace it.
You could tell the AI to make them do anything, and make jokes of anything. Though, I suspect for legal purposes there might be a limit on that. So, okay, Exit Valley is shit animation. It's shit comedy. It's kind of a great example of everything wrong with AI in creativity, in the sense that it's the death knell of creativity. But what does all of that mean? What is Exit Valley still? Because none of what we've seen here explains why it exists or why it was getting advertised to me at all.
Hate it all you want.
It doesn't matter anyway. Life doesn't matter.
You're a liar.
And maybe we can find out a little bit more about this by clicking on the website that produces Exit Valley, and who keeps telling me to go and check it out at the end of each of these shorts. Showrunner, hosted on showrunner.xyz, which does make it feel like a scam site that will give me a virus, but for you lot, I'll risk that so we can find answers. Jesus Christ. Okay, so the first answer we have is that the soulless, horrifying abominations that seemed sort of like they were part of the lazy AI animation is 100% how everything is going to always look, as we're blasted by this appalling picture of all these stone-faced, emotionless, blank caricatures, all looking basically the same despite the apparent changes to each. So those fucking eyes. Guess Exit Valley is a little bit more like Uncanny Valley, am I right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. My Netflix special is releasing any day now, just waiting to get cancelled so I can really sell it. And scrolling down past this initial jump scare, the site brings us a bit of information on what Showrunner and Exit Valley actually are. See, Showrunner is a platform dedicated to facilitating ways for people to create show episodes using pre-chosen AI formats. As they say, no agents, no studio gatekeepers, just you and your ideas. They're putting the audience in the driving seat of deciding what comes next in whatever they're watching, in controlling the kind of comedy they get to laugh at, or narratives they're spun, or themes they are being sold. Supposedly. Based off this. Exit Valley is just the flagship project for this whole principle, being the first, well, they call it a hit, and yet the numbers on the YouTube page do not scream success to me. Like, look, I don't have a great YouTube channel for numbers, and even I'm doing better on my worst days than they've been doing on their best days. So, a worrying amount of confidence in something that hasn't quite proven it yet, but Exit Valley is not the only thing you can make stuff in the style of. They also show off some things like Capital Punishment, North Pole, The Prize, Creepy Curiosities, and Everything is Fine. I can't tell you much more about these from here, because all we have on their website is just the pictures of the shows, so what's actually involved in each is left up to the imagination, but even with this cursory glance, we can all sort of see what they're clearly ripping off to some degree. I mean, The Prize is the most Star Trek / Orville looking ass picture that it almost hurts to think that someone could use this and claim originality.
Would anyone else like to speak up? Or shall we end this charade?
But I think what this accentuates more than anything is the thing that we might have all suspected to be true, but didn't have definitive proof. Because here are their best sneak peeks, presumably, and every single one is just a tragic rip-off of something made by a real person, who committed real time and real effort to the content in a way that showed some engagement and interest. Something which has been soullessly stolen and replicated here so that audience members can make their own inferior versions without having to bother learning any of the craft or putting in any of the effort. There is one final piece of information to work off on this website before we've drained it dry, and that is a little embedded video right behind the giant headlines saying, "Behind the scenes, what is Showrunner?" And thank God, finally someone's going to tell me what any of this means.
Be the best player in the world.
Because we didn't build Deep Blue.
I'm not interested in AI.
And after all that effort to get to listen to it, what we're left with is a wanky explanation of how AI isn't just a tool. It's a competitor that can actually take over jobs and replace old media, and that Showrunner is the future of this media that is going to wipe out the old style of filmmaking. Also, very funny to me that this lady talks about using AI to make something impossible and to make something new that has never been done before, despite everything that they are selling me on so far being a showcase of how little new things are being done here.
It already exists.
What the fuck are you talking about, Joe?
This man sells me on how AI is not just here to make creation cheaper, it's here to shake up the whole medium, man, by making them playable to the audience, despite the fact that everything we have seen suggests that the people involved are just ripping off the framework of an idea and then pumping it out to people to create tiny shitty scenes in so that they can be turned into episodes, I guess? Like, my god, how can you watch any of this over-the-top, up-its-own-ass talking and then go to watching the scenes of Exit Valley they've put out there?
You've all seen the news by now. I'm a married man, y'all. You know someone finally put a ring on this finger?
Are we seeing the same things? And the answer is obviously no. These people are so blinded by the greed and egotistical feeling of getting to act like a filmmaker or TV show creator, they don't even realise that rather than building a house, they've put together a cardboard box in a fucking alleyway. And in this video, they hit a huge crux of the problem, right on the head, when they say that Showrunner's big goal is to give the audience a chance to see an ending for a show they don't like, and then go in and change it, giving this person who might not have had a chance to have an impact. Have we considered that maybe, just maybe, that most people have the ability to get angry when some media doesn't go the way that they want, but don't have the ability to actually make that media better? That perhaps an audience member with no experience in script writing, editing, directing, casting, production might in fact just be using a tool that allows you to bypass learning any of that to create their own tragically expensive, both economically and environmentally, headcanon rewrite of things. And you could call all of this some degree of fanfic, but that would be tying it to something that does take a lot of effort. I don't want to shit on the people out there taking their time to sit down and write thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of words changing something in a way they want to. Because here is the thing. I agree that making mediums more readily available to people is a good cause. I agree that it should be okay for anyone in this world to be able to learn all of these things, get to do them for free, and then release it for free as well, which is kind of just the independent scenes. But that's not what this is. This is taking a shit on the indie scene. It's taking all the hard work that those people are doing and going, yeah, but what if we didn't have the drive to do any of that and just wanted to skip right to the end product? And the final nail in the coffin from this little video is when they quickly mention that anytime someone does a simulation of someone's AI-created framework, the person who made the framework gets paid out for it.
Every single time a user generates more content from your show, the creators of that world are getting paid.
And there's the greedy little rub, isn't it? This isn't about freely distributing creativity, it's about creating the most exploitable creativity that taps into the needs of a bunch of people who will pay money to see some shows go the way they want, so that you can then get paid for them being desperate. But that's all that we have from this website, and while it's been a kind of wealth of information so far, it still left me a little lost and uncertain. For one, where the fuck is the actual Showrunner website? The one that they want to look like Netflix and exist on people's televisions? Where do people go to make this stuff? And the answer is they direct you to their Discord, a thing which seems concerning, but because I am deep in this hole already and doing this for you, I'll take the hit and click on that link. God help me. Well, it does go to Discord at least, and the first thing of note is that I'm gonna have to get through a tiny little screening process. Let me just quickly change my name to something less suspicious and that can't be so easily tied back to me, and then let's hop on in. Alright, we are in. And I'm just going to mute the whole server really quick because already I'm getting spammed to hell with people inviting me to stuff and saying hello, and this is not a video where I infiltrate a community and talk to them, at least not yet. For now, I just want to work out what is on this Discord and see if I can find any more explanations to help me figure out this whole thing. I still don't know who the fuck made any of this, or who's funded them. I've got no names, nothing, which, now that I've said it out loud, does seem rather concerning. However, before we dive into exploring the Discord for those things, I want to briefly stop on something that flashed by me when I was signing in, which were the rules of this Discord. Some very interesting things that they've set up for what might be very specific legal circumstances due to the whole them hoping to use this content posted on here someday in an official capacity on an actual website. Most of these are pretty basic Discord rules to try and keep the channel around. No bigotry stuff that could get them in any hot water. No using the AI to make adult content, with a very heavy specificity on child sexual abuse, which I find only a tad disconcerting that they have to really lay that one out. And no using the content to promote harm or attack a group for their culture, religion, ethnicity, gender or race. Like I said, it's all basic covering their ass, though it does ultimately sort of nuke a huge amount of the right-wingers who I would assume love to use this to make their own shittier versions of Mr. Bircham.
Real men stuff feelings down with red meat, cigarettes and violence.
All I'm saying is that I don't think the Netflix of AI can afford to not allow racist jokes or offensive comedy, because I'm not sure who else the target audience for appealing to here can be. The big ones that stood out to me though were number 4 and number 5, both of which seem to have been specifically put down to stop the people involved in Showrunner from having to appear someday in front of Congress, as they say, please don't use these AI tools to create imageries of famous people in a way that could be considered harmful or defamation, and also please don't use these AI tools to try and influence elections or push political campaigns.
Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza is shining bright.
Yeah, they know what the major usage of AI on the internet is. Look at all these rules. I think they are fully aware that what they are trying to do here is absolutely getting overshadowed by the wave of AI being used to spread bigotry, misinformation, and sexualize people without their consent. But okay, those are the rules, and seeing as I'm not actually going to be making any of this crap, I should have an easy time following them and no chance of getting banned or kicked from the Discord. Hopefully. So what can we learn from the Showrunner Discord? Can we find out the actual process for making this AI? Can we learn who is behind any of this and what their names are? Can we figure out why the fuck this showed up on my goddamn YouTube ads so that I know who I can be mad at? To the first one, the process for making the AI scene stuff is sort of clearly laid out in both the FAQ page and the post titled Create Your First Scene. I say sort of there because it became apparent that Create Your First Scene is a really basic tool for just crapping something out, and the FAQ page is where they detail all the little commands that you might need to use to actually make the AI content into something mildly bearable. But yeah, it seems to be a pretty basic process. You find whatever show style you want to make a scene in, go to that Discord chat, type it in, and then bam, you're most of the way there. Just a bit of editing and look at that, you've gone ahead and made a scene of whatever shitty show you'd like to engage with. Whether that's the ones we've mentioned or the new ones that have popped up like Parlor Society or Dogfather.
Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over. The Dogfather is live, baby.
Or this British royal family one that literally appeared like yesterday.
Yet safeguarding national stability should take precedence.
Balancing these priorities remains paramount.
Jesus Christ. But what's the point of this, right? Making this scene has not made an episode. How does any of this lead to that whole Netflix of AI that they keep touting? And the truth is that if you jump into announcements, you suddenly see that there is money being offered around by whoever runs this to try and get people to create pilots for any shows that they have. That being worth $750 or to submit episodes and scenes for season 1 of Exit Valley. That being worth potentially $5,000. And a whole host of other stuff on there, where basically they're trying to get the people in the Discord to do all the grunt work of using this AI to create the shows for them. They've given you a framework to rip off of, and in some cases they haven't even done that, as we see from the create your own show announcement, where they're trying to get new people to come up with new ideas to fill the rather small and stale roster that currently exists. But then the audience have to go in and fill all the blanks, with them just moderating it together and chucking it out as an end product by the end, I guess. I mean, I'm not too surprised that they're desperately trying to get other people to do all this for them. The whole fucking work ethic of the AI model is literally, I wonder if someone or something else can do this for me. But no matter how many announcements talk about Showrunner 2.0 finally coming and big changes to the platform and how Disney is going in on the same thing that they are with user-generated AI content on protected IPs, or the iOS app version of Showrunner coming out soon, no matter how much it does seem like they're trying to create all this momentum and sell me on this momentum, it just seems desperate.
You guys did that without any help from us?
Well, we didn't. The AI did.
Where did it get our voices?
Don't get me wrong. I've looked through the various different shows they have, and I've seen how much people are spamming content on there. There are lots of people making scenes for them, but none of it's really good or functions as a show in a way that seems competitive with human-led created labour. It does really feel like maybe the outsourcing of all the work to people who are only motivated to make shows when they're doing it through AI and don't have to put in any more work than just typing some prompts in over and over to get an intended end result. Like, maybe that doesn't make a viable product at the end of the day. I've also gotta wonder how many of these thousands of prompts a day are just people pissing around and wasting time, and in so doing wasting the resources that go into hosting and managing whatever showrunners' AIs are using.
Data centers like this could use 12% of all US electricity.
I guess what I'm saying here is that this whole business model seems completely unsustainable, and I feel like they know it too. The fact that as it currently stands, there just isn't content proving that it works, being a real nail in the coffin, no matter how much money they might offer to people to try and get something good out of it. Also, yeah, let's just briefly touch upon the fact here that good product attempting aside, this whole thing is definitely exploitative as hell. Like, yes, the AI thing is also inherently exploitative, despite the fact that they might point towards the framework being created off of supposedly original IPs and therefore being okay, but the training models and the frameworks themselves and the way the AI is learned was not fully built off of original IPs, so kinda sounds null and void, doesn't it? And the audience side is exploitative as hell because they're getting you to make free or very low paid content for them to make huge money from down the line when they sell it to Disney or whatever other streaming sites might end up buying in on this craze before the bubble pops and they realize that humanity's tolerance for garbage might only exist in very short spans of time and might only really be led by people who know how to make garbage palatable.
Yeah, a gay team. A big gay team of dancing gays.
AI garbage has its place on TikTok, for sure. Though I don't actually know any people myself who watch that trash, and it might just be bots watching bots. But is someone going to really watch that garbage stretched out for 30 minutes? 30 minutes of generated scenes crammed together from disparate people where nothing is shared except for the aesthetic look of it? But while all of this is true and does make me angrier, it still doesn't help me point that finger of blame at anyone and say, here's the fucker responsible for all this crap. Blame them.
My friends will text me and be like, do you want to order in lunch and do some Showrunner?
Which brought me to looking at the admins of this Discord. Now, we hit a bit of a snag here because there does not seem to be a shared way of expressing what their roles are. This guy and this guy have nothing to tell me who they are or why they should be listened to in the descriptions. Sure, I know they're an admin and they have both made a ton of scenes and characters for Showrunner, but that doesn't give me anything in a business or corporate sense. Another one listed a website at least, fablesimulation.com, while two more at least mentioned their supposed roles in a company, one being Chief People Officer and another being Creative Director, though both of them did list two different names for companies, either Fable Studios or Fable Simulation Studios, which has now left us with 3 avenues to explore, and also the big question to answer. Is Fable Studios and Fable Simulation Studios the same thing? And who runs them? And if they're not the same thing, why are they both listed in connection to this and have such similar names? I know we keep ending up with more questions, but we've got to get to an answer soon. FableSimulation.com seems like the obvious winner of these options. Like, it looks as if it would be a real website the other two would probably just link to down the line. And yet, when I click on it, it just redirects to the Showrunner website, and so we're left back with fucking nothing to access. Okay, we do have the socials at the bottom of the Showrunner page, though those socials are mostly just a pile of AI garbage from the created scenes that is almost indistinguishable from all the other AI stuff that you could find on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. The Twitter page has a bunch of claims, though none of those are necessarily supported by anything that I've seen so far or found, as, yet again, Showrunner does not bother telling us who is running their site in a helpful little, team page. So, dead end. Fable Studios does give us another web page, though this one just goes straight to an in memoriam for Pete Billington. Doesn't help us work out any of the information that I need for you, because the bottom of that memorial just has a link that goes straight back to Showrunner again. Using an alternative searching method for Fable Studios though, I'm able to get to something that gives us some info when I type in Fable Studios /sim home. As we find a new page that has both a project and a team tab. Thank fucking God. So there we go. We've got something. We've got some details now, and... hang on a second. Hang the fuck on for 2 ticks. This whole simulation thing being described here, this Sim Francisco that is claiming to be the end of one-to-one chatbots and the start of an agent-powered simulation, that's just Exit Valley, but slightly more ambitious in scope and less crappy animated cartoon. Is Showrunner just a rebrand of this idea? Did they give up on it and change it to something that is far easier and way more lazy to do? Why would you do that? And also, why would you go to such lengths to try and scrub yourselves from being easily found out for it? Well, on the team tab, we find a little bit of our answer. While most of the names on here are kinda redundant and are just people in the industries linked, 2 stand out from Fable Studios, the co-founders of Pete Billington and Edward Saatchi. Oh my god. Saatchi was the dude from that video on the Showrunner site. It's all finally coming together.
The reason why we created it is to fulfill the dream of many great authors and artists.
See, you might recognise both of those names depending on what circles you run in. And if you don't, let me tell you. Pete Billington is the guy responsible for the Wolves in the Walls VR animated game, which took the classic Wolves in the Wall story by Neil Gaiman, that's not aged well, and turned it into a pretty big step in the world of VR experiences that won a Primetime Emmy Award for Innovation in 2019. Edward Saatchi is one of the guys responsible for the internal social network that kept data for the Obama campaign in 2008, and then transitioned into being on the Ocular VR Story Studio team that tried to push the usage of VR in storytelling before it shut down in 2017. Yeah, this is all about tech bros. What a surprise. But it's also kind of about one tech bro, whose successes are often marred with being in industries that never really went anywhere, i.e. Saatchi, and his collaboration with a guy who seemed to have been at some point a legitimate real artist who wanted to explore new territory in the art fields, Pete Billington. Which brings us to Sim Francisco, and the attempt to create basically a virtual world with extreme reactivity utilization, something which was the original mission before it changed in 2023, when the workers' strikes happened and Showrunner stepped in to create the AI South Park episodes that you might have seen in an attempt to showcase that they could do all of the work of the writers and creators in a poor manner.
Ooh, so serious about the robot revolution, aren't you guys? What if the AI robots start replacing our friends or our families?
It wasn't well received. People rightfully criticised it for being effectively the visual of South Park without any of the actual quality of the show that people want, as well as for being the very kind of exploitative scab behaviour that writers and artists were worried about at the time, and clearly, rightfully so, as Amazon saw this and picked up Showrunner in 2025 as part of its Alexa Fund, an initiative dedicated towards supporting new directions in creative enterprises that the massive Abomination company can use and abuse. So no real surprise that it is full of AI stuff. It is mildly funny that despite them being this apparently huge deal according to themselves, Showrunner and Fable are not present on the select portfolio front page for the Alexa Fund, and you are hard-pressed to find many articles on there talking about them, which does make me feel like Amazon also isn't super sold on the commercial long-term viability of this particular company and model. Pete Billington would not, however, live to see any of this, as he passed away in early 2025, and that is why you don't see his face or name on anything that Showrunner has, it being almost entirely down to Edward Saatchi now, a guy who put a lot of eggs into the VR basket before it bombed like crazy, and he fell back onto this, a thing that he's putting a lot of eggs into, and that will probably bomb eventually. This does seem to be a guy whose main motivation is being an innovative venture capitalist, ignoring the fact that sometimes the cutting edge can be a sharp place to live and a dangerous one to your reputation.
And then we had to approach the question about how to represent visually blindness.
And I think, if anything, we can really learn from Edward Saatchi's past here with Ocular to see the future for the Netflix of AI. Because who's actually going to spend money on this? Who, aside from tech bros hoping to sell you on the bubble, or companies dreaming of cutting out artists to replace them with robots, really wants to watch a bunch of audience-submitted shows of the quality that we have seen so far from Showrunner?
Imagine the parties we could have here.
I thought we were here for leisure.
This isn't even about being able to compete with Netflix. I don't think Showrunner is able to compete with free content on fucking YouTube. So how the hell is there any hope that this isn't just going to be another huge waste of time from something that acts technologically advanced, but in reality is just a horrifying waste of resources and attention and effort? But the scary thing is that Disney is looking into stuff like this.
In this deal, OpenAI is both respecting and valuing our creativity.
Is that Amazon is looking to stuff like this.
Oh, what is that?
Our new Alexa Plus.
That she's not living here. That is full-on AI.
It would be easy for me to see the people behind this and dismiss it as just another stupid product that will fail like all the others. But Fable isn't the problem part of this. Edward Saatchi isn't the problem part of this. The problem part is the guys behind this. Is the big bank rollers who will keep throwing money at anything they can find to commercialize and dismantle the arts down to a level where they have complete control over it. And that's why mentioning all of this matters, even if it feels like a lot of nothing. It matters because eventually what we're seeing here will be cracked in a way that does work, and that does become the dominant thing. Or the companies involved are at least going to burn as much established art media as they can in the drive to obtain that goal. Which is terrifying, and means that you really have got to be on the lookout for any of this stuff. Being aware that all of it could seem silly, but in reality be part of some more long-term corporate planning and attempts to innovate greed and efficiency in a way that destabilizes fundamental things that are part of society and the human psyche. We have got to defend the arts, because before long it could end up in a place where stuff like Showrunner is all of the arts. That every art is audience-generated AI mess that relies upon your labour being used to create the things that you enjoy, with no recognition that maybe artists exist in some form to fulfill that function. And the joy of creation is in the learning and skill of it, not in making an end product that appeals to the biggest baseline possible by being functionally representative of nothing at all. I don't know, I also just really hate AI, and I hate that it's become such a fallback tool to try and infiltrate and dominate media spaces, and that it's clearly been exploited by companies under the guise of innovation and dreaming of the future. Because what a shit future they've imagined for us. And I think that despite things being pretty rough around the world right now, more news and journalists need to be reporting on this. More people need to be doing these kind of deep dives, because I'm just a person on YouTube. I don't have the power to really go hard in on investigating these companies in a way that an actual hired person with professionalism can do it. All I can do is put together what you've seen here, and hope that someone else might pick it up. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed what I put together, and I hope that you found it to be educational, or found it to at least be, informational on all of this shit. It is kind of weird that I keep finding little things that seem annoying and then they spiral into absolute nightmares of the world that we live in, but that is just kind of how things are right now. If you do like what I do, a great way to show that is by going to my Patreon or my Ko-Fi, which will be linked below, and subscribing there. Those in the $5 category will be playing us out very soon, but I am so grateful to everyone who does fund what I am doing. It allows me to pay my bills and to keep doing YouTube in the capacity that I have done so. I'm looking to maybe slow down the amount of content that I put out so I can put more effort into each one, like with this video, and so that also does require my bills to be paid because, well, also because it's hard to find a job right now. The New Zealand economy is in the shitter, and fingers crossed for an election change, but not hopeful. Anyways, once more, a big thanks to everyone on the Patreon and Ko-Fi, but also a big thanks to everyone who watched this video, who likes, shares, subscribes, comments, and goes and checks out my other stuff. I really appreciate all of it, and I hope that you all have a fantastic day.